no one tells you the truth about money. They'll sell you the dream, the cars, the penthouse views, the freedom, but they leave out the reality that success doesn't silence the noise in your head. In fact, it cranks the volume up. You're told that once you hit the number, once you finally make it, everything will click into place. You'll be calm, grounded, happy, but that's a lie. If your life is chaotic now, money won't save you, it'll expose you. That's why you see people who get rich and fall apart, not because the money broke them, but because they were already broken before they got it. They never did the internal work, they never built structure, they never faced themselves. So when the pressure hit, when the world started watching, they cracked. And if you don't want to be one of them, if you want to build real peace, real power, then listen carefully, because this isn't just about getting rich, it's about who you become in the process.
Money doesn't fix chaos, it exposes it. People fantasize about money like it's some kind of magic eraser. They think if they just had enough of it, everything would be okay. Their problems would vanish, their anxiety would dissolve, their mind would calm down. But money isn't therapy. It doesn't cure insecurity. It doesn't teach discipline. It doesn't suddenly give your life meaning. If anything, it puts a spotlight on every part of you that's still broken. Because when you no longer have the excuse of being broke, the real you shows up. Think about it. When you don't have money, you blame your problems on that. You tell yourself you're not consistent because you're stressed. You say you're not focused because your environment sucks. You convince yourself you'd be more disciplined if you just had a bit more breathing room. But what happens when you do get that breathing room and nothing changes? When the bank account goes up but your bad habits stay the same, that's when the truth hits. You weren't unproductive because you were poor. You were unproductive because you were weak. Money takes away the excuses. It reveals who you are without pressure, without survival mode, without something to blame. And that's why it feels so jarring to people who aren't ready for it. They expect calm, they get confusion, they expect clarity, they get exposed. Suddenly, they have all the time in the world and they don't know what to do with it. All the choices and no discipline. All the freedom and no direction. That's why you see so many people who blow through money fast. Lottery winners, athletes, entertainers. They get rich fast and burn it all because they never had structure before the money. Their mind was chaotic long before their account was full. But money didn't solve that. It just made the chaos louder. It added options, temptations, distractions. And if your identity is still rooted in your trauma, your past, your insecurities, money will only inflate the ego, not elevate the soul. You'll start buying things to impress people who don't matter. You'll spend recklessly because it makes you feel powerful for a second. You'll surround yourself with people who feed your image, not your growth. And slowly the money becomes a weapon against yourself. There's no point reaching the top of the mountain if you bring the same weak version of yourself up there. You'll ruin the view. You'll pollute the peace. You'll sabotage everything because you were never taught to handle the silence. Most people live in noise, constant stimulation, constant pressure, constant hustle. When that disappears, they get scared. Not of the world, but of themselves. Money is a magnifier. It magnifies your habits, your vices, your strengths, your insecurities. It doesn't bring peace if you were never at peace to begin with. It's why building character matters more than building wealth. Because if you don't fix the internal chaos first, the external success will be temporary. And in some cases, it'll destroy you faster than poverty ever could.
Most people chase comfort, not real peace. Peace and comfort are not the same thing. That's the first lie people need to unlearn. Comfort is doing what's easy. Peace is doing what's right. Comfort is scrolling for hours to numb your mind. Peace is cutting distractions and sitting with your thoughts. Comfort is avoiding hard conversations. Peace is having them and growing from them. Comfort is staying in your old habits because change is painful. Peace is breaking those patterns, even if it hurts in the short term. Most people think they want peace, but what they really want is to be left alone. They want relief, not reflection. They want a soft life, not a strong mind. They don't actually want to heal. They want to feel better. And money gives them that temporary feeling. Nice vacations, luxury environments, gourmet food. But that isn't peace. It's anesthesia. It wears off, and when it wears off, the emptiness comes back. Because comfort doesn't fix anything. It delays the breakdown. It numbs the damage. But it doesn't rebuild the mind. It doesn't strengthen your character. It doesn't give you depth. Comfort is what keeps people average. It's what keeps them chasing dopamine instead of purpose. They think they're moving forward because they're busy, but they're not. They're just distracted. Real peace isn't soft. It's forged in discomfort. It's built in solitude. It's found in the moments where everything is heavy, and you keep going anyway. Peace is earned through control of your emotions, of your time, of your decisions. Peace isn't the absence of problems. It's the ability to not be moved by them. But to get there, you have to suffer a little. You have to break the part of you that only seeks comfort. That part of you has to die for strength to be born. You'll know you're on the path to peace when your environment doesn't control your mood anymore. When your routine stays the same, whether you're winning or losing. When you stop needing noise to feel okay. That kind of power only comes when you stop seeking the easy path. Because comfort doesn't change you, pressure does. And if your goal in life is to be comfortable, you'll never be free. You'll always depend on something external. A salary, a partner, a vacation, a lifestyle, to feel okay. That's not peace. That's a prison with better furniture. True peace is internal. It's built brick by brick through discomfort, through discipline, through detachment. So when you look at someone who's rich and peaceful, understand this. It wasn't the money that brought them peace. It was who they became on the way there. They chose growth over comfort, silence over distraction, purpose over popularity. They don't rely on the world to stay calm inside. They built the fire inside so strong nothing outside can shake them. Riches amplify your mindset, not replace it. People have this fantasy that once they get rich, they'll finally become the person they've always wanted to be. They think money will flip a switch. Suddenly they'll be confident, focused, disciplined, generous, respected. But that version of you doesn't magically appear once the money hits your account. The version of you that shows up with money is the same one that existed without it, just louder. Riches don't replace your mindset. They put a megaphone to it. They reveal what you've been hiding, avoiding, or pretending isn't there. If you're insecure without money, you'll be insecure with it. If you're reckless without money, you'll be reckless with it. If you need validation from other people now, you'll just crave more of it once you're rich. You'll use the money to try and impress instead of express. You'll chase luxury not because you love it, but because you want people to love you. That's the trap. And it's everywhere, because nobody teaches people how to earn the mindset before the income. You see people get rich and lose themselves, and the reason is simple. They were never grounded in the first place. They didn't know who they were, what they stood for, or how to control their emotions. So when the money came, it inflated the ego instead of strengthening the identity. And when your ego is in charge, money becomes a weapon, a way to flex, a way to dominate, a way to cover up your emptiness. But the opposite is also true. When someone has built a strong mindset, money becomes a tool, a way to serve, a way to build, a way to free others. That's the difference between the rich and the powerful. The rich buy status, the powerful build it through consistency, through character, through competence. Money can't buy that. And when people try it, it always ends the same: anxiety, paranoia, emptiness. That's why the most dangerous person in the room is the one who doesn't need to prove anything, the one who doesn't need the money to feel whole, the one who can lose it all and still operate with the same intensity, because they didn't let money define their mindset. They let their mindset define how they use money, and that's rare. Look at people who built from nothing. You'll see a pattern. Before they got the bag, they were already moving with the discipline of a millionaire. They were thinking long-term, waking up early, controlling their inputs, investing in themselves, saying no to distractions. That's the blueprint. Mindset first, money second, always. But most people do the opposite. They chase the money, hoping the mindset will follow. And when it doesn't, they feel confused. Why am I still unhappy? Why do I still feel empty? Why does everything still feel out of control? It's because you brought the same broken thinking into a bigger arena. And now the stakes are higher, the consequences are bigger, and the cracks in your foundation are clearer. Money doesn't fix you, it multiplies you. If you're a mess, you become a more expensive mess. If you're solid, you become a more powerful version of yourself. That's why most people aren't ready to be rich. They haven't done the work internally. They think success is a destination. It's not. It's a reflection of your habits, of your thoughts, of your values. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are.
Real peace comes from pressure, not escape. Peace isn't some spa day lifestyle. It's not soft beds and scented candles. It's not vanishing from the world and hiding from problems. Peace is forged in chaos. It's built by walking through pressure and coming out stronger. And that's the biggest lie society sells, that peace is comfort, detachment, passivity. No. Real peace is earned. It's gritty. It's tough. It's born from showing up every single day, even when you don't feel like it. The pressure you avoid today becomes the weight that crushes you tomorrow. That's why you train under pressure. You work under pressure. You discipline your mind under pressure. Because peace isn't the absence of weight, it's the ability to carry it, to walk through storms without losing your center, to sit in silence without needing distractions. That's what gives you control. You can't escape your problems and call that peace. That's just postponing the breakdown. You need to run toward the discomfort, lean into the resistance, face the conversations you've been avoiding, confront the laziness, clean up your thinking, do the deep work. Because on the other side of that pressure is a version of you who doesn't need to run anymore. That's peace. Most people want the result, not the process. They want peace without pain, success without stress, strength without struggle. But that doesn't exist. Pressure is the filter. It separates the tourist from the committed. The moment you feel that resistance, that voice that says this is too much, that's the moment you either grow or retreat. And too many people retreat, then wonder why they're always anxious, always uncertain, always stuck. But the ones who lean in, they earn something money can't buy: inner stillness, mental sharpness, emotional strength. They can be surrounded by chaos and still make the right decision. That's not talent, that's training. That's showing up to the pressure again and again until it doesn't move you anymore, until the weight doesn't scare you, until you operate with calm even when the world is loud. That's why the most peaceful people you meet usually have the most pressure on their back. CEOs, athletes, warriors, creators, they're not peaceful because life is easy. They're peaceful because they've mastered their response to life. They've trained their mind to remain still in the middle of intensity.
And that's something no amount of money can give you. You have to bleed for that. So stop asking for a life with less pressure. Ask for the strength to handle more of it. Because the truth is, pressure isn't your enemy. It's your training ground. It's where you get sharp. It's where you discover how powerful you actually are. And once you realize that, peace stops being a dream and starts becoming a skill. One that you built in silence, under fire, every single day. Wealth gives you freedom, not fulfillment. People confuse freedom with fulfillment because they've been told their whole life that the goal is to get rich and then do whatever you want. And yes, wealth gives you options. It removes the leash of financial stress. You don't have to answer to anyone. You don't have to work a job you hate. You don't have to say yes to things that drain you. That kind of freedom is powerful. But here's what they don't tell you. When you finally get that freedom, when there's no one left to blame, no one telling you what to do, no alarms, no deadlines, just space, that's when you realize how empty you are inside if you've never built fulfillment. The reason so many wealthy people spiral is because they get to that point and realize the money didn't complete them. It gave them room, but it didn't give them peace. It gave them power, but not purpose, because freedom without direction turns into self-destruction. You wake up and have all the time in the world and nothing meaningful to pour it into. You eat at the best restaurants, but the food doesn't hit the same. You buy the dream car, and a week later it feels normal. You live in luxury, but inside you're numb. That's the void. That's the part of success people don't post about, because they thought freedom was the finish line. But fulfillment doesn't come from escaping work. It comes from doing meaningful work. It doesn't come from having everything. It comes from giving something that matters. Creating, building, contributing. That's the difference. And most people don't learn that until it's too late. So they chase more stuff, more attention, more followers, more zeros, thinking maybe this level wasn't enough. Maybe it's the next one. But fulfillment doesn't scale with your income. It's built through alignment, through being useful, through pushing yourself towards something bigger than you. You can't fake that. You can't buy it. You can only build it one day at a time. And the hardest part is when you realize you've won the game, everyone else is playing, and you still feel the same, because everyone told you this would be the answer. But it's not. You have freedom, but your soul is starving. You thought removing the chains would make you happy, but it just made the silence louder, because money can't fill the gap left by meaning. And if you never built that along the way, you'll find yourself surrounded by luxury, but haunted by emptiness. That's why the people who stay grounded after getting rich are the ones who were building something they believed in from the start. They didn't just chase money, they chased mastery. They chased purpose. They were obsessed with becoming excellent. And that obsession gave them fulfillment, not the money, the mission, the climb, the growth, the pain, the breakthroughs. That's what filled their soul. That's why they can still smile at the top, because they were already full before they got there. So don't make the mistake of thinking freedom is the end goal. It's just the doorway. Fulfillment is what happens when you walk through it and choose to keep building, choose to stay hungry, choose to keep serving. That's what keeps the fire alive. Not the money, not the followers, not the applause, but waking up every day with something real to fight for. The higher you climb, the lonelier it gets. There's a part of success nobody prepares you for. The loneliness. Not because you push people away, but because most people can't relate to the version of you that's growing. You start to think different, move different, talk different. You don't care about gossip. You don't waste time. You don't tolerate laziness. And slowly people start falling off. Not because you changed for the worse, but because you stop fitting into the box they knew you in. The more focused you become, the more people say you're distant. The more disciplined you become, the more people say you're arrogant. The more you level up, the more they say you think you're better. But they don't understand the cost. They don't see the late nights, the pressure, the doubt, the sacrifice. All they see is the result. And when they can't match it, they resent it. So you start to shrink yourself, dumb yourself down, play small to stay connected. But it eats you alive, because deep down, you know you were built for more. And pretending to be average just to keep people around is the fastest way to lose your fire. So eventually you choose yourself. You walk alone, and it hurts, but it's necessary, because not everyone can come with you. Not everyone's supposed to. The path to greatness is narrow for a reason. It forces you to let go of anything that weighs you down. That includes people. That includes environments. That includes your old self. And in the process, you find out who's really for you. Not the ones who clap when you win. The ones who stay when you're building, when you're unseen, when you're doubted. Those are rare. Most won't understand your obsession until it pays off. And even then, they'll call it luck. But that's the price. You will lose people. You will outgrow places. You will sit in rooms where nobody gets it, and you'll question if it's worth it. But then you'll remember what you're building, what you're chasing, the vision that keeps you up at night, and you'll keep going, even if you have to go alone. And what's wild is the higher you go, the more people want your time, but the less real connection you feel, because everyone wants something. a favor, an opportunity, a shortcut. But very few just want to know how you are, how your mind is, how your heart is. And that's what makes the journey heavy. Not the work, but the silence. The weight of knowing very few people see you beyond your results. That's why the strong don't just build businesses. They build mental armor. They create peace inside, because they know the external world will never fill the gap. They don't expect people to understand. They don't wait for permission. They don't chase approval. They walk their path with focus, with clarity, with solitude. And eventually the right ones find them. The ones who get it, who don't need explaining, who speak the same language of obsession, discipline, legacy. So if you're on the way up and you feel alone, it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're shedding what no longer fits. It means you're clearing space for what's next, for the people who match your energy, for the connections that feed your soul. But before they come, you have to become alone, in silence, in darkness. That's how the strong are built. That's how the greats are made. Not surrounded, but separated, on a path most won't even attempt to walk.
Discipline brings peace, not the dollar amount. Everyone is chasing a number. They say they'll be calm once they hit a certain income, once their business scales, once they're making 6 figures a month. But peace doesn't come from digits on a screen. It comes from structure, from control, from knowing that no matter what happens externally, you're still operating with precision internally. Discipline is what creates that control. Without it, even the richest person lives in chaos. They wake up with no order, no purpose, no consistency. They go wherever the emotion takes them. One day they're on fire, the next they're spiraling. That's not peace. That's just emotional gambling with higher stakes. You can't buy peace with money. You build it with rituals, with rules you don't break, with promises you keep to yourself. When your day has a system, your mind becomes still. You don't have to wonder what to do. It's already decided. You don't let mood dictate action. Action dictates your mood. That's where true power begins. When you no longer need motivation, because routine is the engine. That's when you stop chasing highs. Because discipline keeps you steady. You become dangerous, not because of what you have, but because of what you've mastered. Most people think discipline is restriction. They think it's a cage. But the truth is, discipline is the key that unlocks freedom. Because when your life is ordered, you can move fast. You can make decisions without hesitation. You eliminate noise. You remove friction. That gives you speed. That gives you leverage. That gives you clarity. And clarity is what brings peace, not comfort, not laziness, not pleasure. Clarity. And clarity comes through structure. People say they want balance, but balance without discipline is just laziness with branding. Real balance is earned. You don't get to feel calm if your life is chaos. You don't deserve stillness if you haven't built the walls that protect it. And those walls are made of routines, of habits, of boundaries. You can't binge distractions all day and expect your mind to be sharp. You can't keep breaking your word and expect your self-respect to stay intact. Every time you betray discipline, you invite anxiety. Every time you skip what you know matters, you tell your subconscious that comfort matters more than purpose. And that voice grows louder with every compromise. So no, peace doesn't come with the wire transfer. It comes with the wake-up time, the cold shower, the focused work block, the workout you didn't feel like doing, the book you opened instead of the app, the decisions nobody sees, the details nobody applauds. That's the battlefield. That's where peace is earned. In the boring, in the repetitive, in the invisible. That's why it's rare. Because most people can't stay consistent long enough to see the fruit. They chase results instead of becoming the person who produces results automatically. But once you become that person, disciplined, focused, aligned, you don't need to chase anymore. You attract, not through force, but through precision, through excellence, through the quiet power of consistency. That's the root of peace. That's what makes you walk different, speak different, move different. You're not reacting. You're operating from order. And when you're operating from order, the world can be on fire. But your internal system doesn't shift. You don't panic. You don't scatter. You don't shrink. You execute. Because your system isn't tied to how you feel. It's tied to who you've decided to become. That's discipline. And discipline is peace.
You can be rich and mentally bankrupt. There's a version of success that looks good on the outside and feels hollow on the inside. The clothes are expensive, the car is beautiful, the apartment is high-rise, but the person behind it is crumbling. Because the money outpaced the mindset. The growth wasn't internal. It was circumstantial. It came fast before they built the identity to hold it. And when that happens, the weight of success becomes heavier than the struggles of being broke. People think mental poverty is only a problem for those struggling financially, but some of the richest people alive are emotionally poor, spiritually empty. They wake up with no fire, they go through the day feeling numb. They distract themselves with purchases, with parties, with fake relationships, trying to fill a hole that money can't touch. Because the problem was never external, it was always internal. And they never fixed it. They just covered it up with wealth. When your life becomes about accumulation instead of alignment, you lose yourself. You start living based on optics. You post for validation. You speak to please. You move to maintain image. And little by little, you become disconnected from your core, from your values, from your truth. That's mental bankruptcy. When you're surrounded by abundance but feel like you have nothing real. When your soul is starving even though your table is full. That's the danger nobody warns you about. Because the world claps when you succeed. It rewards performance, not peace. And if you're not careful, you'll start measuring your worth by metrics that don't matter. Followers, likes, net worth, applause. But none of that fixes you. None of that heals what's broken. None of that gives you rest. Because mental wealth is built in silence. It's built in what you do when nobody's watching. In the thoughts you feed. In the emotions you manage. In the triggers you face. In the traumas you unpack. It's built by doing the hard work inside, while everyone else is chasing the spotlight outside. And the scary part is, mental bankruptcy doesn't hit you overnight. It creeps in slowly. First, you start compromising values for comfort. Then you start avoiding reflection. Then you build a lifestyle around distraction. And by the time you realize how far you've drifted, you don't even recognize yourself. You've built a beautiful prison. One you can't escape because everyone believes you're living the dream. And that pressure to smile when you're drowning, to shine when you're breaking, that pressure is crushing. And it's why so many silently suffer, despite having everything they thought they wanted. That's why the real flex isn't just being rich. It's being rich and rooted. It's having money and still being sharp, still being kind, still being self-aware, still being in control. It's having power, but still leading with humility. That's true wealth, not just financial, but mental. Because when your mind is intact, you can rebuild anything. You can pivot, you can adapt, you can lead. But when your mind is broke, no amount of money will save you. You'll fumble the opportunity. You'll sabotage the relationships. You'll destroy the legacy. Not because you weren't capable, but because you weren't centered. So before you chase another dollar, check your mind. Check your habits. Check your soul. Are you becoming someone who can handle the weight of abundance? Or are you building a lifestyle that looks rich but feels bankrupt? Because if you're not full inside, nothing outside will ever be enough. And if you are full inside, everything outside becomes a bonus. That's the mindset that wins long term. That's the only wealth worth keeping. Peace comes from becoming, not having. Most people live their lives chasing things. They believe that once they have enough money, enough attention, enough respect, they'll finally feel okay inside. They confuse achievement with identity. They confuse status with self-worth. But the truth is, you never become peaceful by having more. You become peaceful by becoming more. The path to peace is inward, not outward. It's about transformation, not accumulation. It's about developing a version of yourself that doesn't depend on anything external to feel complete. Having something can be taken. Your house, your car, your status, your job, your followers, all of that can disappear. But who you are, nobody can take that from you. And that's where peace lives. It lives in the confidence that no matter what life throws at you, you'll adapt. You'll respond with composure. You'll hold your ground because you didn't build your identity on what you have. You built it on what you've become. You've seen people with everything still feel miserable. You've seen people who reach their goals only to realize the goal wasn't what they needed. It's because they spent their entire lives climbing ladders they never wanted in the first place. They followed paths society sold them, and when they arrived, it was too late. They had the bag, but they lost their sense of self along the way. They became successful in the eyes of the world and strangers online, but hollow in the mirror. Becoming means you go deep. You examine the lies you were told. You break the cycles that held you back. You kill the parts of yourself that crave validation. You destroy the version of you that always needs to feel comfortable. And in its place, you build strength. You build clarity. You build courage. That's what gives you peace, knowing you've confronted the worst of yourself and didn't run. You've battled your demons in silence and didn't fold. You've walked through pain and came out with wisdom. Most people want shortcuts. They want hacks. They want comfort on the journey. But becoming isn't comfortable. It's brutal. It strips away your excuses. It forces you to admit your weakness. It requires you to be radically honest with yourself. No filters, no branding, just raw truth. That's the work that brings peace. The work that nobody sees but changes everything. Because once you become someone solid, stable, focused, calm under pressure, disciplined when nobody's watching, then nothing outside can shake you. Not failure, not rejection, not betrayal, not even success. Because peace isn't passive, it's built. It's forged in the moments when you could have escaped but chose to face it. When you could have blamed but chose to take responsibility. When you could have quit but chose to stay in the fire. That's how becoming happens, one hard decision at a time. And the more you build that version of you, the less you need from the world. You stop needing the applause. You stop needing constant wins. You stop needing to be understood. Because you understand yourself. You've met the dark side of your mind and trained it to obey. You've suffered in silence so deeply that nothing superficial can shake your stillness. This is why true peace is rare, because it demands depth. Most people want surface level peace, enough to sleep, enough to scroll, enough to smile in front of people. But real peace demands you level up. It demands you build an identity that is so sharp, so rooted, so authentic that everything else becomes background noise. That's the kind of peace that lasts. Not a feeling, a foundation.
and you only get it when you commit to becoming, not just have.
You don't find peace, you build it in silence. Everyone is searching for peace, like it's a destination. They travel for it, they pray for it, they buy courses, books, retreats, hoping something out there will give it to them. But peace isn't a place. It's not handed to you. It's not found in a quote or a journal or a yoga pose. Peace is built day by day, decision by decision, discipline by discipline. And it's built in silence, not in front of the world, not when the cameras are on, but in the quiet hours when no one is watching and it's just you and your choices. That's the difference between those who perform peace and those who live it. Performance is loud, it looks calm, it sounds wise, it posts perfectly filtered moments, but real peace doesn't need to be shown. It's quiet, still, solid. You can feel it in someone's energy before they speak. They're not rushed, they're not triggered, they don't overreact. They move like someone who's already faced the war inside and won. But building that level of peace means doing the work nobody sees. The late nights where you wrestle with your thoughts. The mornings you wake up early and train when your mind tells you to sleep. The moments you sit in discomfort instead of running to distraction. The times you choose truth over convenience, silence over noise, long-term growth over short-term pleasure. That's how peace is built, through the unglamorous decisions, through the boring consistency, through the hard reflections. You don't build peace when life is easy. You build it when life is heavy, and you choose to carry the weight anyway. When you choose to respond instead of react. When you choose to breathe instead of break. When you choose to lead yourself, when no one else will. That's the foundation. And once it's built, nothing external can move it. Because it's not dependent on perfect conditions. It's internal. It's earned. It's yours. This is why some people with nothing still walk with power. They've built peace in the trenches, in pain, in heartbreak, in failure, and they came out with perspective, with self-trust, with an edge that no money can buy, because they stayed in the silence long enough to know who they really are. Most people avoid that silence. They can't sit alone without noise. They're scared of what they'll hear. They distract themselves with content, conversations, chaos, anything to avoid facing themselves. But without that silence, you never meet the real you. And if you never meet the real you, you'll never know what peace actually feels like. You can't skip the silence. You can't outsource the work. You can't fake peace. You either build it or you stay broken. You either face yourself or you stay dependent on the world to regulate your emotions. But once you've done the work in silence, the real work, you'll stop chasing peace and start walking in it. You'll carry it with you into meetings, into conflict, into business, into relationships, into every moment. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. And no one will see the battles you fought to build that. They'll just see the calm. They'll feel the presence. They'll wonder how you stay grounded when everyone else is shaking. But they won't understand that the calm they see is the reward for the chaos you overcame in silence. The crown they admire is built from bricks you laid when no one cared, when no one clapped, when no one noticed. That's the kind of peace no one can steal. Because you didn't find it, you built it, brick by brick, in silence, alone, until it became who you are. Everyone's out here looking for shortcuts, looking for peace and paychecks and followers and flights to nowhere. But you don't find peace like that. You don't stumble into it on accident. You build it in the dark, when no one's clapping, when no one's watching, when it's just you and the decision to stay disciplined one more time. The world is loud. It'll try to sell you a version of peace that's comfortable, easy, shiny, but that version always collapses when life gets real. The kind of peace that lasts is earned, it's raw, it's forged in your lowest moments. And once you've built it in silence, no one can take it from you. Not a market crash, not a betrayal, not even failure, because you didn't just get peace, you became it.